Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of AI InterConnect Podcast, where we spotlight the pioneers, operators, and minds behind the most exciting moves in PropTech, automation, and AI powered business systems. And today, I'm thrilled to be joined by someone who sits at the intersection of PropTech innovation and real estate marketing evolution. Vasilios Kambouras, and he is the founder of CRE Streamline and K Management, and he's building systems that are helping real estate professional simplify workflow, automate their marketing, and take content creation to a whole new level. Vasilio, it's awesome to have you here. Thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for hosting me.
Fantastic, fantastic. Let's kick things off with your story. Basically, how did you get into prop tech world, and were there a specific problem you saw in the industry that make you think, okay, this need to be solved?
Absolutely. So I actually started my real estate career at 16 years old while I was in high school. On free periods, I was out doing showings. So like I was literally running between school and work. No one else was really doing this. So I got very early exposure as an assistant, and then eventually I worked my way up to be a portfolio manager. And this portfolio was focused on off market. Like anything in the portfolio was for sale, right? But you would have to procure a buyer off market. And the client was also interested in buying things off market. So off market is really where this value gap exists, because that's where the leverage is, right? When you talk about a value gap, it's where you have inefficiency, right? And there's a lot of value to be made in being able to solve that. And the way that off market real estate is done hasn't changed at all. Um, the best thing we have today is like CoStar, for example, which owns LoopNet.
Yep.
They're a data company and they're a listing company. Pretty expensive, right? And that's pretty much the best thing that we have today, and it's been like that for a very long time. Most people off market, they leverage some kind of data platform to identify their target market. For me, that was shopping centers. My whole life, really, the focus has been on retail real estate, particularly in Houston, which is a very robust market. It's growing, a lot of activity, which is great. A majority of the retail market is traded off market. If you look at the statistics, it's like 3.1 billion. I think that's just retail, like out of the 5 billion. Um, so really great market, a lot of activity. There's like these big players in the market, right? And the goal is to discover these available off-market properties, um, and procure a buyer. And there's a science to that most people don't see. They're just out there kind of aimlessly networking. And what I have discovered is there's a science to it. So, this came out of all of the hardship we had to go through just to make one big deal happen. Me and my partner that I've been working with. Because it's a tremendous amount of research. Let's say you have this one center. The buyers are so decentralized. All these different portfolios have a website. And some of them it says their acquisition criteria, some of them it doesn't. But the fact is, the buyers are out there. And there's no place where you can find all of those buyers with ease. They're just decentralized. The information is just everywhere, right? And the general aspect, what someone wants to buy and sell, is information that exists in their head. Would you sell this building? How much would you sell it for? What are you looking to buy? sometimes this information is just in someone's head.
Yeah.
So like extremely, it's off market information, right?
Confusing and widespread, a little bit of everywhere.
Yep.
Then then if I may ask, can you hear me fine?
Yeah, absolutely.
CRA, commercial real estate streamline, and K management are two pretty powerful platforms today. Can you break them down? Can you break down what they do and how they came to life?
Sure. So I just want to clarify, K Management, Kambouras Management, was just a company that I started during my real estate career, just for myself. And like shortly after, I would say 2 years after I started it, this venture started to take ground. And one thing that I'm very aware of when it comes to technology is that you don't know what you don't know, right? The ways that technology can be used. So we thought it's probably best for the purpose of brokerage, um, that we create a subsidiary for the purpose of using technology in the brokerage capacity, because we don't know what other things may come out of it. For example, we may eventually start like a REIT as well, because if you had the best matchmaking technology, the ability to find good deals, right, and you can eventually identify that with technology, why wouldn't you also be a real estate buyer, right? So we may form like a REIT branch at some point. The specifics of the structure haven't been like finalized, but it's probably the direction we're going. Um, so just to like iterate, they're practically the same thing. One is a parent company, the other one's a subsidiary. We're
Very clear.
likely going to have other subsidiaries under that, like brokerages in each state, because licensure is required. Um,
Of
yeah.
course. But fantastic. Yeah, let's jump to some challenges, and from where you see it, what do you see as the biggest pain point right now for real estate professional when it comes down to content, branding, and lead generation?
So the one that I can speak most about is lead generation.
Yeah,
Um, you know, I just think that the average commercial real estate agent out there doesn't really have the tools to efficiently hone in on a market. Because the fact is, there is no leading brokerage for all intents and purposes. If you look at every other industry, like the gas industry, right, you might have, or the telephone industry, you might have three big main companies. In real estate brokerage, no one in particular, it seems, has market dominance, which says something. It says that nothing has fundamentally changed. No one has come out with a fundamentally like revolutionary technology. Otherwise, someone would have gained dominance by now. They would have figured it out, right? And you would have like one big brokerage that's really leading the game. Um, so the biggest problem with lead generation is that the methods by which agents use are oversaturated. Everyone is doing the same thing. We don't focus on residential yet, but if you were to ask me how do people lead generate in residential real estate, they call for sale by owners, right? They just call up their whole neighborhood.
yep.
These are not efficient processes. Now, if you're a little smarter, you can add some data, you can look at the mortgage, you can look at when they bought it, you can look at trends. The average person isn't quite there yet. And the technology to filter all of this data just isn't, I would say, prevalent. There's some examples, but I would say it's not that prevalent. We're in commercial real estate, and we're looking for trends that we can use, different angles that we're able to work off of, because it's like geometry. You have one side, and then you try to find the other side. Um, So the biggest problem with lead generation is simply that people don't really have the tools, and even if they did have the tools, most people don't know how to leverage the tools. I work with a lot of great agents. They know how to do business in person, but bringing real estate agents to a more analytical place is something that, we have to become data scientists, because real estate is really a matter of, it's connecting data, right? That's fundamentally what it is. You're connecting data points. um
That makes
yeah.
sense. That makes sense. No, definitely. That's very, very interesting. And if I may ask, is there a misconception about automation in real estate that you think is still need to be broken?
um you mean, like, is there still room for it?
Yeah, of course.
So frankly, I haven't seen substantial development in the space. I mean, you can go online and type in like off market real estate platform, and what you'll see is that you have a lot of these startups that are trying to, this is just some of them. What they're trying to do is decentralize real estate, off market real estate, by providing a publicly available platform for people to post what they want to buy and what they want to sell, and maybe like without disclosing the pertinent details. And what you'll see is that most people don't trust that. Most people are not willing to put off market information online, and that's where we're different. We're not a publicly available company in any way. It's completely private, and that's why it works. I can go more into that. But in terms of what's out there, people are trying to decentralize it, but if you have a $10 million asset, you're likely a very serious ownership. You don't want to willy-nilly information about your site. You don't want to just put it out into the open. There's a lot of protection and such, due diligence and care and confidentiality that goes into multi-million-dollar assets. Very few people would even put their home on such a platform. So that's the way that many people have gone about trying to solve it, and they might prop up their website with like information that's already out there on LoopNet or Zillow, but they're not actually providing any value. Because the fact is, there's two perspectives here. There's the real estate agent, and then there's the buyers and sellers directly. Those are two different customers related, but these are two separate customers: the buyers and sellers, the real estate agents. Most people, what they're trying to do is connect the buyers and sellers directly through a publicly available platform. And they don't want to do business like that. I would say most of them do not, they can't get the inventory on the platform because no one, the types of people that do this, that sell these assets, like as in my field, for example, commercial real estate, right? Anything above 2 million, like no one is putting that on a publicly available platform unless they actually want to list it. And then, they're going to LoopNet. But the fact is, most of the retail market is not listed. It's off market, and it goes by word of mouth. It goes by connections, people that you trust. That is the culture that no startup has succeeded in breaking, right? By bringing in data and like a marketplace. No one has successfully brought a marketplace to the off market, as far as I can see.
Yeah.
And so nothing has changed for years. It's been fundamentally the same process. And whenever you want, I'm happy to go into like how we're changing that.
That's very, very, very interesting, and I want to go into Streamline, and let's unpack the core engine a bit, and how does Streamline actually help users, and what happens
So,
from the moment someone signs up?
yep. So at the moment, Streamline is founder run. It's me on the phone. We do have some partners that are using it, but for the most part, I'm operating the whole system. I'm leading the team. We just have like two other partners that are doing sales, and we work very closely together. In an ideal world, once we get to enough profitability, the idea and profitability just means me making deals happen. And we think that we're heading towards very substantial profitability. But the idea is that um, once we have enough to salary real estate agents, because we have a process that's replicatable, and I would say it works. So the goal would be, if you have this process that's very profitable, right? Because most companies out there, they're SaaS companies, subscription.
Yeah.
We decided to take a very unconventional approach with this startup. Because subscription, why are you going to make, let's just say, $50 a month off of buyers and sellers when the transaction is the most valuable part, right? If it's a $2 million transaction, the 3% commission is the most valuable part of real estate. I mean, it's the largest economy in the world, right? And the most valuable part of this industry is not automating home systems and, the infrastructure of it. The most valuable part is when real estate is traded, there is a 3% commission. And the cost to automate such processes in real estate marketing and connection is so low compared to the commission potential, right? Because
Yeah.
the question is like, is it any harder to connect people at a $2 million level, a $20 million level, a $50 million? And I would say no. It's the same fundamental data process, which would drive an economist crazy. The fact that you can apply the same system over here, there's probably a limit, but over here, maybe at 100 million, you're dealing with institutions and they don't want to talk to you, right? But as far as like family office portfolios up to there, it's the same process. And so the cost for the most part is like a stagnant cost. It's the cost of the platform doing the data analytics and any people that we may have to hire to work as real estate agents under us and do the process. But what we essentially do when a user signs up is it's a data platform. You're looking at property records that we've procured, we've gotten the contact information, we've mapped out the true ownership, because everyone owns real estate in different ways. Some people, it's their name on the line. That's not so common though. Other people, it's an LLC. More sophisticated investors, you have a corporation that owns various LLCs that then own real estate. And it can be even more convoluted than that, right? The structures can vary. They can be decentralized structures owned by one person. And so we looked for trends in this. We're just in Houston, Texas right now, but it's a very replicatable process to go into other places, assuming the data is there. And we were able to map together the ownership information and get phone numbers, which is valuable, right? Phone numbers, actual means of contacting these people about actual properties that they own. And here's the thing, right? I mentioned that these people don't want to sign up for platforms. So the only way you're going to really do business with them is you need to ask them on a phone call what they want. It's like doing the Tinder swiping for them, right? They're not going to sign up for your Tinder. But if you ask them what they want, they will tell you. So in this market, when you're dealing with 5, 10, $20 million properties or more, you need to call them and ask them what they want. This is where our platform provides a lot of value, because it allows a user to map those objectives onto the platform. And that's only the most basic level. We're doing some more advanced things in our ability to find matches that haven't yet occurred, like off-market inventory that someone would buy. We're starting to get a little more advanced, but fundamentally asking someone what they want to buy and sell. Is this property available? What are you looking to buy? And aggregating those objectives. Remember, I told you that acquisition criteria is everywhere, right? It's just all over the internet, all these different portfolio websites. Well, if you just call them and ask, you can map that onto a platform. So essentially, we've created a database of off-market information, which then gets fed into a matching engine. The matching engine is where, on the most basic level, right, where you might find matches between a buyer and seller interested in doing business. So it takes combustion. You need to call enough people that a match can occur. It might be 100 people. It might be more. There's a lot of different things about it, like how targeted you're being, right? But if you're targeted enough, you should only need to call so many people to get combustion, is what I call it. Enough buyers and sellers that a match actually occurs.
That's very interesting.
And so you can get an idea of what our KPIs look like: total available properties, total available buyers, how many matches, how many go into negotiation, how many go into closing. Our KPIs are basically like a brokerage, but it's a tech-enabled brokerage. We have the entire process in one place. We don't need a listing platform. We don't need to go to LoopNet. We are the listing platform. We have our own engine.
Off market,
right? We have our own data. So it's a fully comprehensive system.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then beside all these, of course, are there any workflows or tools that surprise people on how simple it is once it's implemented?
I would say the lead generation is the most basic part. Being able to filter through properties by certain characteristics, rather you're going by the appraisal value, the category, the square footage. I would say that's probably the most, like the easiest and most fundamental part of what drives it as well. And it really helps enable agents to generate more business for themselves, because you have a platform today called CoStar, which is the leading platform, like multi-billion-dollar company. However, from my experience, the last time I used it, it must have been years, they don't have a CRM. They're just a data platform. They do have the ability to list, right? But, when you look at real estate, so many different things need to be used to do a deal. From the moment you find a property you like on LoopNet or CoStar, you then need to call the agent. You need to call them. So now you're going from LoopNet to an Apple device. Or you need to email them. Now you're going from LoopNet to Gmail, right? And it goes across so many different places. Rather it's the platforms or the brokerages themselves. And this complicates the entire process. What we want to do is bring that all into one place. The next phase of what we're doing is probably going to be communications. To create a product where buyers, sellers, agents, everyone involved in the real estate process can communicate and be in one place. And that's probably the biggest step that hasn't happened yet. If you ask me, like, what's the biggest thing waiting to happen in the real estate industry? Bringing the communication together. That's something that has never changed. But the most fundamental part of our platform is the lead generation, the ability to call these real estate owners and inquire on what they want to buy and sell, and map that into you can call it a CRM, map that into there.
Awesome. We also talk a lot about AI around here, and you've been integrating smart workflows and content systems and lead generation for a while. And what's your perspective on how AI is reshaping PropTech today? Are you using it?
So you might not like my answer, but I don't think it's shaping prop tech at all. However, there's a catch. Probably the people all the way up there in institutional markets, like multi-million, billion-dollar real estate companies, right, that own a lot of real estate, that are actively buying huge properties. Those are probably the only companies that are benefiting today. And that's usually the general trend. It happens up there and then it comes down, right? That's usually how the technology works. And there's a saying that it's easier to sell to the rich, right? People often solve big problems for big people and profit from that, and then they invest in bringing it down. We're noticing that as well. We originally went out to try to match shopping centers around like a $2 million price point. Really small beans. We're talking about like your average Joe owns a shopping center, or even a few. And we found that it's really, really difficult at this stage to connect those people. It's actually way, way easier to deal with like family offices, big portfolios, not institutional, but big portfolios, more like the $20 million price range. And that's something that recently just started happening. Our price focus has been just jumping up because we're following where it's easiest to do what we're doing. So I'm giving you some background on the reason why it's the way that it is. And that's because no one has invested. It's just too hard. It's very difficult. It takes a lot to solve the problems down here. And it's likely going to continue to develop up here before it comes down. I think it's going to take more time before this type of technology becomes publicly available. ChatGPT and things like this are going to probably help forward that, like help make it happen for the general people. Even I use, actually, sometimes, like Grok or ChatGPT, I prefer Grok, to try to produce real estate buyers for large properties. Because if it's big enough, a buyer who owns similar properties might just be publicly available, meaning like something like Grok could identify that buyer by going on their portfolio website and saying, hey, they own a property just like the one you're trying to sell. They might be a buyer, right? So AI is very, very helpful for that. Publicly available information and connecting the dots like that. We have strong intentions with AI in our company. And part of that is automating the actual matchmaking, meaning the communication. That's the biggest part of real estate. It's communication. You can have all the data in front of you. You can have the perfect match. But if you don't know how to communicate with this side and reach these sides appropriately, because they might ignore you, right? You need to like talk a certain way. You need to present things a certain way. Communication is huge. And you need to reach the right email, right? You don't want to email the wrong person or nothing's going to happen. So mapping out this information, and eventually I believe AI can at least at first assist a user, but then eventually at some point AI might be able to, at some point, and this is the big dream here, big vision, make a transaction happen all on its own. I'm saying AI real estate broker, as in the actual, let's say Joe.ai, right? Robo agent learns how people email about real estate, and eventually one day, I feel like Michio Kaku here. I'm the physicist. One day, AI bots are going to be able to match real estate deals and be a broker all on their own. Meaning exactly what I do, one day an AI bot is going to be able to do that. I think it's a matter of legality. I think it's a matter of the technology getting good enough that an AI bot can even be trusted to talk to these sophisticated investors. Because you're not selling shoes, you're not selling t-shirts, you're selling multi-million-dollar real estate. And it requires an extremely high level of care, due diligence,
That's
and
right.
understanding, and like respect for it. So it's going to take a lot for AI to get to a place where it can sell things like that. It's already selling sneakers. We have AI calling people about, hey, why didn't you order the AirPods? I saw you put it in your cart, but you didn't order it. Can I help you with any questions? We have AI that can do that today. And it's very believable. It's great. But to get it to $1 million real estate, $5 million real estate, 20 million, to handle those conversations, and come off as realistic, that's going to take.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Hard to say.
No, exactly. And then where do you draw the line between helpful automation and keeping the human brand voice alive? Exactly what you say. Where is your threshold?
Well, like I said, this technology is going to take a while to come down. It's tough to say. It's we, the people, that shape this world. And not, you know, everyone has a different vision. Like ChatGPT was originally created as a nonprofit. Some people are skeptical if it's going to continue on that path of actually helping people or simply being a profit making machine. Unfortunately, the way that our company is designed is to be a competitive and disruptive force. And it's not the best thing for the real estate agents. It's really great for the buyers and sellers because they benefit from more efficiency. But real estate agents, as connectors in the market, I hate to say this, but they're slowly going to be outpaced by those who are using technology. And they say the same thing about ChatGPT, right? Those who leverage the AI are the ones that are going to be competitive in the world. And so it's a question of if other brokerages are able to adapt fast enough to rapid change, right? Because what happens is once someone really leverages this technology and does it well, like actually cracks the code, and they have a model that works, meaning they can go out and match any two people if they focus in that direction, right? Let's say, hypothetically, I want to match buyers and sellers in the Houston retail market between this range and that range. And that's all I do. And I hire 10 people to help do it. And we call the entire market, and our system's able to match them up, right? And then we keep doing that. We keep going into other areas, increasing the range, right? That is the scary disruptor. Because what happens is those deals disappear for other agents, right? Because it's off market. It's just the deal's gone. It already sold. So the question is, will other brokerages be able to adapt fast enough, right? So that there's a competition between the power of the AIs or the data analytics of the technology, right? And they likely will. They likely will adapt. You'll likely still have a few big players in the market that most agents are going to work for. It's probably going to consolidate. I think that's what you'll see at some point. And it just
Okay.
comes down to the brokerages that implement the technology and make it available for their agents to use
That's great.
to empower
That's
them.
that's great insights. And then what's your vision? And looking towards 2025 and beyond, um, what are what are you most excited about in this PropTech world? And what's the big picture for where Streamline is headed for you?
Sure. So, the big picture from from a place of profitability, right? We're about 1 year into this venture from when we broke down on development. I was here for much longer, like the idea phase, right? But then we started to hire some key partners that came on the team, and made this happen. We've released like the enterprise level product just in the end of January 2025. So the MVP, it took 7 months, and then like the rest of the year, right, almost like another 5 months, and then we finally got to an enterprise level product that's actually really good. And I'm the one who has to go out and prove it. And ideally, our goal in this first year, rather we reach this goal or not, the goal is to get to 2 million in revenue. That's what we would like to accomplish. Um, and to do that, through matching deals and matching them more efficiently than anyone else. And the goal from there is to, once we have that model working, the goal is to rapidly expand, meaning start hiring agents to do the data mining and matching, and just continuously keep doing that. And we're going to run into new problems. A lot of those problems have to do with the data being available, because at the most fundamental level, the county level, where real estate data is fundamentally kept, it's kept at the county. Every county has its own data records. This is insane for a state like Texas. The amount of counties in Texas? It's like 100 or more counties.
That's where you find your data, through the county.
You first have to get it from the county. That's where it exists at a fundamental level. Then you need to run it through the state, and then you need to do data scraping, get the contact info. It's a whole process. But if the county lacks necessary data to do the analysis you need to do, to put it broadly, that's a data gap. And like, I'm sure other companies have figured out ways to solve it. Most of them have not, though. Most companies don't fill the data gap. So that's probably one of the problems we're going to encounter. We're likely going to like go along the major Texas cities, San Antonio, Dallas, where they probably do have better data. Once we start scaling, and then to start going into other states like Florida, California, New York, and to try to apply the same process there. And the big picture here is that we truly become the leading number one, I'm going to say from the outside, real estate brokerage, because that's what we are from the outside. Looking from the outside, we're a real estate brokerage, right? If you're some property owner, you're getting a call from me as a real estate agent. Yeah. So they don't know what's behind the scenes. But from the inside, we're a data company. We're a technology company. And so the vision is that we create the number one platform for real estate sales, and to provide solutions that address the entire real estate process, every single aspect of it. This is just the core engine, what I discussed, but we want to encompass, for example, like I forgot what it's called, like deal automation, or deal management. That's the word. To help buyers and sellers manage the deal online on a platform, to help them with various other aspects that are involved with real estate. It might be the accounting aspects, right? If you're a huge property owner, you might have thousands of tenants in hundreds of different centers. And for a lot of old school people, all of that information is on paper. Stacks of paper in some big room. Stacks of paper. I've been there. Maybe we can help automate that.
Yeah,
maybe
any tech integration at this level for them to to make it easier. Any partnership maybe going forward is in your venture?
I'm sorry. If we have any partnerships going forward?
Yeah, Yeah, or yeah, I try to see your vision for 25 and beyond, and about your company,
So
on tech integration, partnership, and the big picture, as you say.
so here's what I'll say. From the very beginning of starting any company, right? A startup, especially as a first time founder, it's really hard. And I mean, like, the hardest part is financially, resources, and getting talent. Getting talent has actually been easy for us, but the cost of running an unprofitable company makes people, I would say, it can make a company vulnerable to give up more value than it should have to because of the situation it's put in. And we wanted, from very early on, we wanted to try our best to avoid partnerships because of the
Okay.
opportunity cost implications it could cause in the future. And those implications are getting data from someone or business from someone that eventually becomes protected business. And that means that this business is off limits. It can't be capitalized on. From an early stage company, this might sound like a great opportunity. But I have a lot of, like, I'm very careful. I look at the future and, like, it's worth it to wait, right? People say all the time with raising money, you should wait as long as possible before you raise money. The best way to make money, the best way to raise money is through your customers. It's through doing the business, right? Um, so I've been very careful, and other people who are on the team, not to form partnerships that could compromise. I would say the independence of the business, the ability for the business to act on its own and compete in the market, for it not to be impeded by partnerships by some other brokerage that comes in to use our software, but then there's some kind of agreement that you're not going to touch this business or something. We don't want to compromise our ability to compete, so we've avoided partnerships.
I understand. That's that's
Yeah.
uh, that's great information, um, inside information, and let's um, let's switch it up, with a quick rapid fire round. Like, say something, whatever comes out of your mind. One tech tool you couldn't run your business without.
Um, one tech tool couldn't run your business without.
Yeah, there's so many.
I Well, the thing is, we built everything from scratch,
That's wonderful.
completely from scratch.
Your
So
your in-house CRM, and then
yeah,
maybe.
I would say like AWS. I'm not the most
Okay.
technical person, but I
Okay.
would say perhaps AWS to run our servers. Otherwise, we'd be like running it on our laptops.
Okay. Okay. Your favorite way to decompress after a long week?
So I do a lot of I do yoga every morning,
Oh,
but to be
fantastic.
completely frank, no shame about it. I love cigars. I love a nice cigar. For me, that's a really great way to decompress. I really like quality cigars.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Um, a PropTech founder you admire?
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great question.
Or not?
I'm trying to think.
We can pass. We can pass.
Okay.
I mean, on the same line, a book or podcast that had a big impact on your mindset,
A book or podcast. So
related to yoga, maybe.
sure, it's more like a person. There's a guru that I follow. His name is Sadhguru. He founded Isha Foundation, and he's probably had the biggest impact on my life across the board.
Okay. Okay. And one trend in the industry that is overrated.
An overrated trend. Um, I'm not sure how to. Sorry, I don't know how.
No,
Like,
no,
what
no.
do you mean by trend? Like,
Oh, but I mean, a technology trend, AI. I mean, overrated. It could be. It's not, but um,
I would just say on market real estate.
on market, exactly. You're off market. Yeah, of course, of course. Um, okay, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. No, it's great talking to you. And um, if you could share one message with every prop tech startup or real estate funder or agency leader listening today, um, why would you want them to take away?
Um, what I would like for people working in those capacities is, you know, not to not to get distracted by the surface level activity of whatever you're doing in your industry. Just getting the next buyer, the next seller, the next maybe your mortgage lender, the next borrower. Not just to think about the system that you're using now, but like where is that system falling short? The inefficiencies of that system, to look at the market in its totality as a whole, and to really think about what is the way that it's being done today, how our company is doing it, how their company is doing it, and how can it be better, you know? And the person who thinks on those lines and deeply goes into the science of what they do, right? Deep into the science of whatever industry they're in and how that industry functions. Um, it's just a matter of getting the idea out there on paper, developing the model, pairing up with a technical co-founder, and going out and building. And the value of that, even if it doesn't work, the value of the experience is something worthwhile in this lifetime. To
That's
go out and try that, even if you have to put a lot on the line, um, to go out and try to make new things happen.
great answer. Great answer. That wonderful, Vasilios. This was awesome, and thank you so much for joining. Your vision for simplifying and scaling real estate marketing is something the industry clearly needs. And where can people go if they want to learn more about what you're building?
We're still working on a formal website, but by all means, people can email me. It's just my first name, Vasilios, at kmgmt.co, or they can DM me on Instagram. I'm very out there.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thanks again for being part of this. And we will be translating this episode and sharing it across our international channels. So your insight will reach real estate leaders in the US, in Spain, in France, and beyond. And
Super.
let's capture all in the next episode. Thank you very much, Vasilios, and we keep in
Awesome. Thank
touch.
you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you. Hold on. Okay. You okay?